Hi everyone, welcome to the Continental Club. Today is Back to Basics, a CM17 review. Let me put the camera on and I'll give you a proper hello. Here we go. Let's get this out of the way. There we are. Okay, so I'm Anne Hein, Embroidery Software Specialist for Janome America, and today I wanted to do a little review of our CM17. You know, it's January. Maybe we're starting some new habits. Maybe we need to go back and learn something or find something we've forgotten. So that's kind of what today is, a little bit of a refresher for you. It is the basics. There'll be a lot of other things coming as we go along this month, so I don't want to overwhelm you, but I'm just going to show you a few things about our CM17 that I just love and that the features that are on there. So I'm going to switch over to my camera so you can see my screen. I may have to readjust the camera view in a minute here. Let me just see what's going on. There we go. Oh, looks pretty good. I do have a bit of glare because of my, these screens are so shiny bright, and I did turn the color down on mine quite a bit so that it doesn't have quite as much glare. And I was going to hang sheets to cover everything, but it's just too complicated. So anyways, so let's get to our review. I want to start with the set mode right down here, because I think that's really important that people know where the set mode is. It's this little gear down here. And in the set mode, there are two areas for general things for the machine that covers the whole machine, and then the sewing area, and then I'm not going to do the third area, which is the embroidery area. And of course you have the Wi-Fi over there too. We'll do embroidery at another time, but I'm just going to cover the general things and the sewing things. We're going to stay on the sewing side of the machine. So when you come in here, these are the things that you can change on the machine. So if you want to be in inches, you can change it here. I'm going to page backwards so I'm not putting my arm in front of you, and just point out a few things. Here's bobbin winding speed. I like to wind my bobbins fast so I can turn it up. If I'm winding a delicate thread or monofilament, I would come in here and turn it down so that it would be lower. All your sewing machine lights can be turned on and off. You can make them light, brighter or less bright in here as well. Down here, this is important, the auto off time setting. So what this does is when you're done sewing, if you don't turn your machine off and maybe you get distracted, you run upstairs to do something and then you don't come back, it will turn, mine is set for 7 hours. It'll turn off in 7 hours, and it actually turned the machine off. Your screensaver comes up, but everything will be turned off with this. And then up here is the standby timer. Typically, I have my standby timer set on 1 so that it, because of my videoing, and then you can see my screensavers much quicker. I have it set at least 21 minutes today so that while I'm working, I don't have to keep touching the screen to turn it back on. And of course, I have my screensaver turned on. I've done videos on how to put your pictures on your screensaver. So if you want to find those are on the Janome Artistic Digitizer Facebook page. So you're welcome to go there and look for those. Let me see what else here. We're back to the first page, so I'm going to come up here and go to the next page. I don't touch OK until I get all done with all my changes. And then I'm going to come over here, and on page 1, just to let you know, if thread cut after auto lock is turned on, what that does is whenever you touch your scissor button, it cuts your lock button. It will automatically cut your threads and lift. So sometimes that's a good thing and sometimes it isn't. So I usually keep mine in the off position. Down here, this is really important too. Foot height for pivoting. We do have the pivot feature here, and we can set it to different heights. So if we're doing things, we can set it right at the stitch as well, but this is for all pivoting. So if you like it at a certain height, instead of having to change it, you can just come in here and make your change. Any changes you make in here are for the whole machine, not just a particular stitch. If you're working on a particular stitch and you make a change, it's just for that stitch. So you don't have to come over here to do a lot of things. Resume mode should be turned on, and favorite stitch should be turned on. And I'm going to show you why favorite stitch should be turned on. Your ASR information is over here for sensitivity, and the zigzag, variable zigzag, ASR, and the overspeed warning. So you can come in here and make those adjustments here. Now I'm going to start at the bottom of this. This is assist in inserting, removing fabric. You know how on our machine, our feed dogs go down when we stop. You know, when the foot comes up, the feed dogs go down. And that's so you can pull your fabrics in and out easily and not catch on the feed dogs, because our feed dogs now are little pointier. They're a little pointier now. So some people don't like that. They want to keep those feed dogs up all the time. And so you can turn it back on over here. And so if you need that on, you can do it there. Bobbin thread remaining sensor. This is important too. This is on the sewing side of things. Once I have it turned on, so it will let me know when my bobbin thread is low. And then if I want to finish off a bobbin, if it won't let me go any further, I just have a little bit more to stitch, I can turn it off over here and then finish out my thing, and then I just turn it back on. These are your startup speed of your foot control and your start stop button. I have mine all the way to fast because I need the speed. Then I can use my speed slider to adjust it wherever I want. This is for the speed slider, and this is for your foot control. I don't use my foot control very often, but I do use my speed slider, and I like to adjust there. And then we are back to the beginning again. So I'm going to touch OK to make sure I save all my saves. And then it's back here to our screen. Now, going up a little in here is our adjust window right here. And this is where you would change the stitch. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit too, if I can get that in here. There we go. I have to get my camera to stop wiggling. Oh man, it doesn't want to, it's on a cord, so it doesn't like the, there we go. So in here, I can change my, this is my stitch width or needle position. This is the length of my stitch, and this is the tension, and this is my presser foot pressure. I can also do those same things over here. I'm going to pick my camera up gently. I can also do those same things right here in the center, which is really nice because while I'm sewing, I don't have to reach way over there. I can just do it right from here. So let me rest my camera a little bit here and show you. When I go to change these, sometimes I want my needle all the way to the right or all the way to the left. And so you don't have to go here and do this. You can just go all the way up. Or if you see these little dials over here, you can just turn the dial and it'll move it all the way wherever you want it to be. And this is the one for width. So if you like turning dials, you can go here. I like to just swipe it down like that so that it's either on the left side or the right side of my foot. Sometimes that's what I'm using. So that's why I like it there. And then when you get done, if you want to, just hit DFT. That's default. It sets it all back to default. Okay, so let me show you here in the adjust window over here, one of the things we have. I'm going to back out just a little bit so we can see. There we go. When you open the adjust window over here, it gives you those same things, but it adds the favorite stitch down here. So what that means is if I make any changes up here and I want to save them, say I don't like sewing at 2.4 as my stitch length, and I would rather be at maybe 3.0. So I'm going to move it up to 3.0 like that. And then I want to put it in my favorite stitch, so it's here. If you don't see this on your machine, that's because in your set mode, you didn't turn it on. So you need to turn it on to see it. So I'm going to touch right here. And then I'm going to put it in FS1. I could put it in FS2 if I want. I'm just going to put it in FS1. You can see it's in there because there's a bracket now around my 3. I'm going to close this window. And then if I go to this stitch over here, and then I go back to my first stitch, you can see that the change is saved here. You can save all these positions in your favorite stitch. So if you go back to your favorite stitch, let's go back in here so I can see it. I'm going to open it up so we can see it. So you can see all the things you can save in there. Depending on your stitch, you may have more things that you can save in there. If you want to delete it, you touch the trash can. It opens the window, and then you touch the one you want to delete, and it deletes it. And I'm going to close this window, and I can put it back to default. It won't go back to default because it's just going to go back to an unsaved stitch. Okay, so you have to remember if you want it to back to the default, you have to touch there. The other thing while I'm here, so I don't forget it later, do you know how sometimes when we're sewing, we touch the lock button here by mistake, and it won't let you do anything until you cancel out your stitch? Well, you don't have to choose another stitch and come back. You can choose your same stitch and just have it there, and then it turns that off. So that's like a quick thing. A lot of times, we bump that occasionally when I sew standing up, so I use my start-stop button, so sometimes I bump that by mistake. So it happens with things that you're doing. Okay, so that's where you adjust your stitch, whether you're doing it here or in the menu that's up there. Okay, so you remember that, or the little knobs. All your stitches are in here, and you can page through them with the arrows. You can also go to the top. Let me zoom back out a little bit so we can see more of the top. Up here, you can change to different groupings of stitches. And then, of course, you would page through. But what I like is this piece of paper right down here. Look at this. I don't know if you've ever touched that. These are all your stitches, and I could just page through all of them like this. I picked that one, and it brings it right in. So I could go back to the paper. It takes me right back to that page. Maybe I want to go to the kangaroo, and I've got that one. So for me, I like this part down here. I like to see all my stitches instead of trying to page through, one at a time. Because the other way, when you're up here, you have to page through like this. You just have to keep paging through. There, it's less paging because there's more on the page. Okay, so it's one of those things: 6 of one, half a dozen of the other of what you like to do. And then across the very top of our machine, we have 2 more things I want to show. 3. This is a go back button here, and it takes back where I was. And then this is where you would go into your ordinary sewing. Well, we're in ordinary sewing applications, and embroidery mode. So if we go into sewing applications, you'll find in here sewing side things, you'll find quilting things, and you'll find your foot options as well. So what's nice about this is when you select this, it's like a little sewing helper. When you want to do a rolled hem, it shows you the foot. It gives you different choices for that rolled hem. Of course, you always have the option to make changes in your rolled hem. And if you want your pivot function on or off, you can turn it on or off right there. Now going into the quilting section, because a lot of us are quilting, and maybe we are going to do some patchwork, which opens up first. Now the difference is in here, this stitching in here, this is for memorized piecing. So that means if you're doing a lot of 2-inch squares and you have a whole stack of them, you could come in here and you can stitch one of those seams and save the length of the seam. And then you can just unplug your foot control and use your start-stop button. It'll sew and stop. Just push your next one under there, push the start button, sew and stop. It's amazing when you have a lot to do. But a lot of us are free motioning. So I'm going to come in here, or we're doing ruler work. But when we come in here, we have all of these choices. We have the option. It gives us the PDH foot that's along the top. Down here, these are going to be our non-hopping feet, the QC and QO, and we have different ones we could use with that. But we also have our ASR. And my ASR is highlighted because I do have it plugged in at the moment, because I wanted you to see this. If you don't see the ASR there, you have to plug in your ASR, and then you have to select your ASR. And see, you don't see it on the top. You'll see it down here on the second line, stitch 3. You can use it with 4, or you can even use it with 5. So let's turn it on. There we go. These are your ASR feet right there. So your ASR is all set. You just have the attention and stitch length in here that you can change. And of course, you still can change the height of your foot. So that's in that area too. So that's just something to remember. If you don't have your ASR plugged in, you want to make sure you plug it in, and then you'll see it down there. I'm going to turn it off. The other thing is stitch plates seem to confuse everyone as well. And if you want to do any stitch with width, always think of this. I want something wide. So that would be your zigzag plate. It's a wide opening. And it would show you on here. See, this is showing a zigzag thing here, though I would probably put my straight stitch plate on, And when I put my straight stitch plate on, it changes to a little dot there. And when I put my HP plate on, it says HP, it only lets me go to certain places. So if you ever think, sometimes people think they broke their machine, but they haven't. It's just their stitch plates, and our stitch plates are so easy to take on and off. Also in your settings, you can set how long that stays up when you open up your stitch plate on there. So let's go back to there's one other menu. I'm going to go just back here to ordinary sewing, and then the 3-line menu over here. There's a few more options. This is quick stitch select. If you knew the stitch number and letter, you could type it in here, but I showed you the really shortcut down here, so you don't have to. You could do that if you like. And then also what's in here is the Quilt Block Advisor. We're going to be having some more videos on how to use Quilt Block Advisor. It's for creating quilt blocks, and you put in your measurements, and the software in here tells you how many you need and so forth for that size. So that's pretty neat. And there's more directions in the manual, and I think also on the global page. So what I've opened this really for is for the manual dual feed setting. And the manual dual feed, if you wanted to use your AccuFeed, which is dual feed, you want to use it for a decorative stitch or anything that doesn't come up when you choose AccuFeed, you would choose you don't turn it on, you choose your stitch, come in here and turn on AccuFeed, and then you get the adjusting here. What this means is this is adjusting the upper feed of your feed dogs when you're using your AccuFeed foot. Some machines have a dial on the side. Now this is all electronic in here. So for decorative stitches, you come in here to adjust, to turn it on and adjust. And then and the other thing down here are these buttons. These are all under the 3-line buttons. This moves your hoop connector to the middle. This moves the hoop connector to the top. And then when you choose one of those, the third one over here brings it to the front. So if you're packing your machine, you can put it there. If you want it out of the way, you can touch there. So that's under our 3-line menu right there. So let me just touch, I'm going to just put this back to, I'm going to turn it off actually. There we go. And I'm going to go okay. If I turned my AccuFeed on here, that would be this one here. And make sure I have my foot attached. I would attach my foot, and then in my right here is where I would adjust that for my AccuFeed. It adjusts the rate of speed to match, maybe it's adjusting the bottom to match the top on there. And you have your hook plugged in. So I'm going to turn that off. There we go. Anytime you get those messages, the machine doesn't know what foot you have on. It knows what plate you have on, but it does not know what foot you have on. So this is a recommendation of a foot, but it's up to you what you put on your machine, okay? The other thing that's here is this little one right here, okay? This is different from, this is the presser foot pressure. This is floating mode. And when you select floating mode, it does only allow you to use a couple of stitches here. And if you were piecing and using your 1/4-inch stitch under your decorative, which a lot of us do, you could come in here, and what it does is you can raise the foot right here. You can raise the foot up slightly above your fabric and still keep the same presser foot pressure. So if you're going along and you're going to have some thick areas, or you're sewing a lot of thick areas, you can raise it up from the beginning and start that way. So that's what that is for. That is the floating mode right there. Okay, so we're going to go back to sewing right here. Now, if you have questions, please post them in the comments. I have my back to my screen, so I can't watch my comments today, so I will watch them in the comments afterwards, and I'll make any answers there. If there's something I didn't show and you want to know about it, I can show you there. Let me see. We did the tour. Okay. So what I want to do is I'm going to move my camera over to my machine so that you can see me stitching. And I want to show you a couple of stitches. Now this is just a straight stitch, right? And if we wanted to reverse at the beginning or end, we would have to touch our reverse. But I like to use stitch 2. Stitch 2 has a little reverse at the beginning. It's automatic. And then when you get to the end of your seam, it has a little arrow here. That means you can go ahead and touch the reverse on your keypad, and it will reverse and do your stitches right there. Now, if you're using your foot control, you have to remember to keep your foot on the pedal. After you touch this, put your foot back on the pedal. The machine will do its reversing and it will stop. Okay, and then you can take your foot. I use my start stop button, so it does it automatically. The other one I want to show you is number 3. This is stitch number 3. This has a locking stitch at the beginning and the end of it. And you can see I changed this one to have a stitch. It's one of my favorite stitches. I have it at 3.0 at the moment. It does a locking stitch at the beginning and the end. And you can set how many times your needle's going to go up and down to make your lock stitch here at the beginning and the end of your piece. So that's up to you how you want to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my machine set up. I'm going to move my camera over here so you guys can see what's happening over here. And I have to turn my camera in a downward position. Let's see if it'll go in that position today. Hang on, there we go. And I'm gonna, let's see if it'll stay there. All right, so let me see if I can get, there it is. Get the camera back, move my legs, there we go. Okay, there we go. I'll move it to the front in a minute so you can see from the front. So this is the stitch number 2. And one thing you'll notice when I get done, I do have my top thread pulled to the side and in the side holder right there. Now it's an old school thing. And when you're sewing, you should do that because it helps alleviate that big nest on the bottom. It gives your thread a little bit more tension. And usually I have it like under my foot and up in here like that. And then I'm just going to hit my start button. I am going pretty slow, so it's going to start here. It's saying make sure the proper presser foot is attached. Yes, it is. And it needs to lower the presser foot because I had it up before on my own. There we go. Press start. Yes, I do have the right one. Oh, wait a minute. There is something wrong. Okay, so the culprit was I had my ASR plugged in. So that's why it wouldn't let me. I plugged it in earlier and forgot it was back there. See, we all do that kind of thing. Let me go back to my stitch and we should be good to go now. There it is. So it's going to go forward and then backward. And then it's going to come forward. I'm going to turn it up just a little bit. And when it gets down here, I'm going to hit reverse. And it does the reverse all on its own. No hands. Look at that. And then I'm going to clip my thread. I'm going to pull it to the back like this. I can take this thread and stick it up there. Well, typically it's easier to grab that thread when my hands aren't so dry and wintry. There we go. So let's look at the back side of this. There we go. This is the start and this is the end. Very nice and neat on the back. I have a little extra thread in there. Makes a really nice reverse. So I'm going to try stitch number 2. That's the one with the locking stitch in it. And I'm going to turn my speed just a little bit down. Here we go. I'm going to start it. It's doing its locking stitch. Moves back just a little bit. It's going to come down here. Anywhere I want to stop it, I'm just going to hit the reverse and it'll do the locking stitches down here. And then I can hit my scissor button, pull this to the back, and there we go. Very nice that way. And I can stick this back up there. All right, the next thing I want to show you is something under the applique stitches. So I'm going to come back to the machine just a little bit here, the front of the machine, so you can see this. We are going to go and use the tab here for decorative, because applique is the first one. And under the applique stitches, we have the width of our stitch, the length of our stitch, tension, and then we have this one. Okay, that is needle position. That can move your whole design left or right to get closer to your fabric. Okay, and so let me go ahead and I'm going to come over here and put my camera back in this position. Let's see, hang on a second. There we go. And I might be able to put it in front. I have to hold it. All right, so this is going to be my applique fabric right here. And I'm going to change my foot. So when I do applique, you can use your F foot. That's what shows on the screen. The F foot or F2, they both have a channel back here. So your stitches flow under that little channel. So I'm going to pop this off. I can put that foot on, or if I have my applique foot, it's a little shorter, goes this way. It's a little bit shorter, so if you're going around curves, it's a little helpful to go around curves. These kind of feet with the little bar in the back, they, I'll have to move my thread in a minute. They go on the back of your foot. There's a little opening back there. Let's get this up there. Hang on a minute. I'm going to have to put my camera down because I cannot hold and do, I can't do that one-handed. Here we go. And pull that up. There we go. All right. And I'm putting that on because I want to show you something about that foot. We all know the other one, how it works, but this one has some lines in there, which are very nice. I'm going to pull my top thread over here. It's gotten quite long on me. Put it up in here. Oops. There we go. Let's get the tail out of the way. Okay. So I'm just going to put my fabric underneath there and put my foot down. So I kind of went like this, and then I put my foot down. And I'm like, maybe I have a great big applique project I'm working on, but I don't want to lift up the foot again to move it. So I can go to my, I can go to the one where it's needle position, and I could use the minus, and it will bring the needle closer to where I'm stitching. So right now I'm going to bring down my needle so you can see. It's in the yellow part. Can you see that? It's in the yellow part. And I'm using my thumb wheel. I'm going to bring it back up. And then I'm just going to move the needle to the left. You see it moving over? I think I have to go a couple more. There we go. And then I'm just going to put this down. Now it aligns right with the edge of my applique, and I can start stitching at this point. So let's see what we've got going here. I'm not even holding that. It's sewing so straight. I'm going to cut my thread, and I'm going to back this out. Put that thread up here and see if you can see. Let me move my camera down so you can see this better. There you go. So you can see my applique right on the edge. I was able to bring it right over without moving my fabric back and forth. So that to me is a great thing. So there's a lot of little things like this on the machine that I like. One last thing I'm going to show you up here are these magnets. Now today I don't have as many of my little things on there, but I love those magnets up there for my scissors, my tweezers, my screwdriver, any needles that I've taken out. I do have a little needle saver that I hang on this one, and I can stick my needles in there. That it has embroidered on it different letters for the different color needles, so I can have those in there. All right, so let me put my camera down here for a minute. And then I'm going to turn the other camera back on and say my goodbyes. So let's see what we've got going over here. Let's see, get back to this one. There we go. All right, so hopefully you enjoyed that learning. Maybe you learned a few things, or maybe just a refresher to use some of the other features. You know, straight stitch always comes up first, and we just, whoop, we're ready to go. Even I forget, like, oh wait, I wish I could swap the two and put the second stitch on the first one. That would, that would be good because it would be right there. But that is a very, very handy stitch. Now, if you're stitching with it, the number 2 stitch where it has the reverse at the beginning and the end. If you get to the end of your piece and you don't want to reverse, you don't have to. Just don't touch the reverse button, pull your fabric out, cut your threads. So you don't have to use the other part of it, but you do have to make sure you push the reverse if you want to engage it to do its own little backup. And it's so perfect when it does it. It just, right, I can never back up that beautifully whenever I'm stitching. So I just love that. And then the little locking stitch is very handy for different things that you're doing. Maybe you just need to hold a couple things together at the beginning or the end so the threads don't come out as you're working on something. Maybe you're manipulating your fabric. You don't want a whole reverse stitch there, but you just want a little tacking. Plus, you can change how many stitches you have at the top and the bottom. To me, that's such a bonus. So Janome's put a lot of neat things in the machine. Today was just a few of my favorite things that I like and help make my day better. So thank you for joining me in the studio. Hope to see you again soon. Probably next week, I'll be back again with another segment. Bye for now. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our series on graphics. Let me get the camera on. Hi, everyone. I'm Anne Hein, embroidery software specialist for Janome America. And today we're on our third part of our four-part series on working with graphics. And this week we're going to talk about some of the stitch changes I made and some of the things that I did along the way. Now, last week, the first week we went over converting our graphic, and last week we decided how we were going to convert it and work with it a little bit, and I gave you some options on that part. Now, the one thing is when you work with a graphic, there's never one road to take. There's no, you're going to start one way and there's lots of different options you can go. So I'm just trying to show you some different tools and different things that you can use to help you with those graphics that you're working with. So there isn't an A, B, and a C to do with graphics. Not really. There's a few probably things that you should remember to do. Like in the first video, I talked about changing the DPI down to 300, how to scale your image, those kinds of things probably are important in the very beginning. But once we get into putting our stitches in there and playing with our stitches, a lot of that depends on where you're going to put it, what type of fabric you're going to put it on, the use of it. Is it going to be behind glass? Because if it's behind glass, if you have a little bit longer satin stitch, you might be okay. Because in a wearable, you wouldn't want a satin stitch that's more than 1/4 inch, really, because then that you can get your fingers caught on, fingernail caught on that or whatever. So that's one things to think about as you go along. So today I'm going to delve in a little bit more with our flower, and I've come up with 2 different petals that I like, and I'm going to show you those. I'm also going to show you how to duplicate if you do one petal, and that's what I did. Instead of drawing each one out, I did duplicate one petal. I got one where I liked it, and then I duplicated it around. I'm going to show you how to do that easily. And then I want to show you a little sample of compensation, pull compensation, so that you can understand that just a little bit better. And possibly when you're stitching yours out, if you have that issue, then you'll be able to work with it in the software. Okay, so let me go ahead and I'm going to open up my software and we'll get started. So here we go. And of course, we're starting right here on our welcome screen. I do already have some things open up here. And, my favorite way to look for things is through the browser. And I have the browser open here. I do have a USB stick in there. I don't have my machine on just yet, but let me see if I turn it on so you can see it'll connect up after a little bit. And I have my S9. I can turn that one on and we'll see if they connect up in just a bit. You do have to, if you're going wireless, you have to make sure when your machines come on that you clear off any of the windows that come up. And there we go. You can hear my little arm moving a bit. There we go. Let's see if there's any more windows. So if there's any messages on the screen, you do want to make sure that you clear those, or you won't be able to send. So now you can see on my screen that these both popped up. So I do have the CM17 and I do have my S9. If I want to send to either one of those, I can do that. All right, so let's start with what I ended up with. Last week I ended up with these 2 petals here, similar to this. This one here, I'm going to open this one. So I kind of decided this is what I want to work with, this type of a petal. And I stitched it out a couple different times. And I noticed when I stitched it out that this one seemed very thick. And I could play with the density on there, of course, but I also went up here into fabric and I changed it to smooth. And when I changed to smooth, it brought the stitch count down. So let me show you. If I go back up to normal, which I'm normally at normal, see how many stitches that is? It's 4,000 stitches at the moment. So if I go back in my fabric to smooth, there we go. We have that. And that keeps, let me see if that message will come up again. I did some editing earlier, and if I undo and redo, it might come back. I'm going to clear it instead of Xing it. I'm going to let it put those stitches back in it. So, and I also added this little outline, which I don't really need. So I could delete that out as well. Because when I was first stitching it, and I'll show you when we get in close here. Let me go in close. I was thinking it needed something under there. Let's delete it and see what happens. And it's all about the look. So I kind of like not seeing that line under there. So that I might go with that. And I stitched these out a couple different times. I played around with the layering of the colors. And as you can see in here, I changed my density to 0.35. So it's a very light density. Same thing on these. These are at 0.05 as well. So, and I changed the underlay to tacking. What did I do with the yellow? Yeah, same thing with tacking. So you can change this also. So depending on what you like under there, you might need more underlay with what you're doing, or maybe less is better if it's showing. Sometimes it shows through if you're trying to do a light stitch out. So you can use the fabric tool up here to your advantage. And the reason I use that is not that I picked any of these fabrics. It's the density that each of these is. So normal is a little bit, well, is pretty much your normal density, I guess, but the most current, most popular one that you would use. And when I want something lighter, I really went into smooth. Now, if I go to normal light, let's see, we're at 963. So let's see if I do this. And I'm going to take care of that. Now I'm going to let it go back. And it went down to 627 on just these, on all of this. Yeah. And that one will go down as well. So you can change the density that way as well. For a whole piece, if you had an embroidery and you were like, ooh, you know what, I don't want to play with density for each part. Let me just bring it down first to a lesser density, and then I can play with the density from there. So it's, that's what I said. There's not just one way to go with this. There's different ways to go. So I'm going to put this back on smooth and okay. And in your manual, if you go to help, printable help, and you look for the thing on fabric, it'll explain the fabric and the embroidery category to you. So you'll get a little bit more information. And that would be up under here, under help. We have help topics or printable help. So that's where those are. All right, so I'm going to go over here to the flower and stem. So what I ended up doing is, this is my flower, and then I added the center now, and then I added these little pieces here just by drawing a little short line, and then I colored them. Now, one of the things you want to do also is to reorganize your or resequence your piece. So as you're working, and I think we're going to go over that next week. We'll do the final resequencing up there. But the one thing you want to remember about, when I'm working, I started with the petals, but then this part I know is going to be behind. And then I started doing some of the leaves, and I'm like, oh, that has to be even behind even more. So these pieces here, I'm going to bring my leaves down to the bottom. Let's see here. I'll grab all of them. And then I'm going to right click, order to front of design. So they're going to be down here now. Let's see what happens. Did they move? They didn't move. Let me undo that. Oh, I went the wrong way. Okay, back up. No, I want them in the front. Here we go. There we are. Now they're on top of that. So they're actually, and we could take care of that one too. So, oh, undo that again. That's not what I wanted to do. There we go. So I created the flower, then I came in and created the leaves. So when I originally had them, they were all at the bottom of my sequence window up here. So they would stitch last, but I really want them to stitch first. They're one of the first things I stitch, unless the background is going to go first. And I don't know yet because we're going to do background next week. I'm going to talk about the background. So when I'm working along you'll want to resequence your piece as you go. Let me do the copy and paste of these petals so I can show you that, and then we'll resequence those so it'll be a little easier for you to understand that. We do have several videos on resequencing, so it's, you can always come in here and you can click on it and drag it up and down if you want, or you can right click on it and go to order and decide where you want to send it. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead. I'm going to take just one of these petals, and I think I'll take this one here. And so what I did is I brought the one petal in and I copied it in all the places, and then I went around and changed them just slightly. Each one, that's not what I want. I want to take that, this, and this part. There we go. And I'm going to copy that, and then I'm going to go to a new page, but what I want to do is I want to open this as a backdrop so that I can lay my petals on there. So I don't have to do anything because it's just a backdrop. And then I'm going to paste. So there's my piece on there. And you can see that this is a little bit bigger than that. And I can change it by going to View. This is my backdrop, Properties. And I'm going to move this to the side here. And right here, this little dot at the bottom, this here resizes the scale. So I can bring it down to like 75. And you can use your cursor with that, and you can with your mouse, or once you get it going, you can use your arrow keys to bring it down. So there we go. I'm going to take all of that and bring it down here like this. So it's sort of in there. All right. And I'll close this window. So I have my piece here. This side over here, I'm noticing, oh, look, it's doing something weird on that side. So let me ungroup it. So I left click to select it, and I right click to ungroup, and there's ungroup. And then I'm just going to select the brown one and edit nodes. And I'm going to take some of these nodes away. So I think I'm going to take this. I'm just going to click on it and delete. Click on that one, delete. Click on this one and delete. And then when I do this, I can take this arrow and make that go upwards like that. And I may want to tuck this inside here just a little bit so that those all move over. So let me see what happens with that. I know it's giving me this part here which doesn't want to move. So I may have to select that again and see if I can get some of these nodes to move for me. Because I have a tiny piece here, see some of it's, yeah, I'm going to go back to my normal one. I think I'll be okay. We'll just, there we go. Now it goes back in and we're good. Okay, let's X out of there. So there's my petal. And now I want to put it all the way around, and then I can edit the insides of them if I want to. So to do that easily, what you're going to do is I need to get all three of these parts selected. And then once I do that, because I want to rotate, I'm going to move out just a little bit. I'm going to click on the corner handle to make the rotate comes up. And then in the center, this little plus, I'm going to move that down into the center here. This means my petals will copy around the center. Does that make sense? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to move this over. So I'm left clicking on the corner and then I'm going to click on D on my keyboard. And now I have a copy of that. And then if I do Command and R, or Control R if you're on a PC, I can copy these all the way around. One more. It's thinking about it. I think it gave me one extra one. Let me see if I undo one. There we go. All right, I've got them all in there. So that wasn't so hard, and that looks pretty good. I went through on mine and I redistributed the brown a little bit just to see, if it would be in a better work out in a better spot, whatever, to make them look, because they don't have to be perfectly matched. It's a flower, it's nature. So I would do that. So that's easy to do. So let me go back. I'm going to go back and show you that again. So you have that. So you have your one piece there. Click on your corner. So you have your rotate handles. Take the plus in the center, bring it to the part that you want it to rotate around. And then you're going to, let me bring this down a little bit. Then you're going to left click on a corner handle. And as you drag it, touch the letter D on your keyboard. D as in dog. Let me try that again because oops. Let go. Hang on a second. There we go. Let me undo this because okay, here we go. Let's put this back in the center. Start rotating, and after you rotate a little bit, click D and then let go. There it is. Now just touch Command R for repeat or Control R for repeat. And then you're just going to, there it goes. There we go. And I could put that one extra one there, but I think I'm going to undo that extra one. There we go. And we're all set there. So that's how you do that. And I could still move them around a little bit if I wanted to, bring them in closer, take them out. Maybe my petal actually needs to be smaller altogether, so I can resize that as well. So I have all those options with me. Now, after I got done playing with this one, I was thinking, what if I liked a satin here instead of the step fill? Step fill is kind of flat in a way. And with a satin, you can, it would look maybe a little more dimensional on there than flat. So I selected my petal, this color here, and in my properties, I did satin. And then make sure I had add short long, because when you do that, it's not just one long satin stitch. It will give you short ones and long ones and short ones and long ones as you go. And then I went to stitch flow. And in stitch flow with satin, you have direction and divide. Now, divide are the green ones. And so I divided my petals up like this to give it a little bit of dimension. And then using the red for click on direction, red sets the direction of your stitches. So I can show you like that. So they go like that. So I just went around with each one and divide. Let's see, I did divide. Let's do direction. This one, I don't think I had any direction in there. You can go like this just to get some of that direction, depending on which way you want to do it. You can put your little dot on the outside or on the line that you did your direction from, like so. If you're in divide, divide needs to go from the edge to another divide. It can't go to a direction. It has to go on a divide line or over on, let's take a look at that, or over on the, let's go back to stitch flow. And I'm just putting some of these in here. I love divide because it gives you some nice creases. There we go. Well, come on, that's where let's get a new one. There we go. You can put some interesting creases in there. And these are shorter stitches. So if we looked at these as stitches, and I went in here to stitches. Hang on one second. So we are in manual. As long as we're in manual, let's select that and then go to edit. There we go. So you can see the stitches are where those creases are. So it's a good way to change your stitches. Now, another thing you can do is if you're working with satin is the thing I did with my petals. First, I was down here and I used this one here. And this one was just a plain satin. And then I went into my patterns and I chose wide satin. And after you choose wide satin, you can change the length of your stitch to get the look here. So let's see if we went to, there we go. So if I made my length bigger, you can see the spacing got bigger. If I make my stitch length smaller, you're going to get more ridges in there. And then when you have a satin and you go to stitch flow, you have your direction, and then your divide on there. So you have those two things. So you can go back and forth between those. So my direction, I made them curve a little bit, and then my divide, well, actually that's my, hang on a second. Yeah, that would be divide. I don't have, let me undo that. So when I did my divide down here, I bent it a little bit. There we go. So you can see it instead of a true divide. And then for direction, I wanted all the stitches to go up. And this little line in here, I just drew that in. That's a stitch pattern, a running stitch outline. And I went to bean gap. To find bean gap in the search, just put B and you'll find bean gap. So I did one like that. Let me undo those because I like the other way like I had it. Maybe one more. There we go. And then, there we go. And then over here, I was playing around with patterns. So in this one, when I selected it under fill, I went to the patterns and I chose broken lines 2. And then once I was there, I went to stitch flow and I made my my line in here. So I was under divide and I drew my line and then I put my cursor on it and moved it a little bit to bend it. And once I got it bent, then I put my stitch line on top of there. And then in direction, I just placed where I wanted if I wanted those to go in a certain direction. So you could make your stitches go in a different direction. Now, sometimes when you do that, it changes the stitch, so it gives you shading and things like that. So you can kind of play around with that part of it. And I didn't play with the stem as much. Let me undo here so I know where I'm back to. There we go. Right now, I didn't play around much with the stem. I just kind of left that there. So that takes care of that. Now, the brown center, let's look at that. On the brown center, I decided, let's see, it's got to be back here. Here we go. I just used the shapes tool and made a circle and I put it in the proper spot. So let me delete this and I'll show you. So if I wanted to put a brown shape behind there, I'm just going to click and drag. Now I have mine set to come in as a green outline and a red fill. So I'm going to delete the outline because I don't need an outline. But my red fill, I'm going to go to my colors and I'm actually using Marathon for this one. So I'm coming down in here and I'm just going to pick a really, maybe this dark brownish purple here. Now it's in the wrong spot, correct? So it's down here at the end. So I am going to, I can drag it up like this, depending on where it has to go. But it has to go really behind the petal, so it needs to go at the top. So it's easier to go here and go to order, and then back of design. So now it's behind there, underneath all of those. And you can see how that changes it. So now I've got it in the right order in there. I'm not sure what these are. I think I have some ghost things in here. Oh, I see what that. There we go. All right. And then for the, when you want to reorder these, what I did is down here, I right click on the color, say select by color, and it selects all of these. And if they were in different spots, they would group up, and then I could drag them around and put them, maybe I want them to stitch right after the brown. And actually I have them stitching after the green, but I think we're okay. So there we go. And a trick is, if I want it to be at the top, let's say this one here is that color. Let's see if and I'm going to do select by color. And then I can send that to the top, order, to back of design, and then go to the top, use the little slider. And here they are here, but they're above the brown. So I'm going to click on them and drag, left click, drag, and put them over here. So you can find them that way easily too. Oh, I see what it took out. Some of my little creases are gone. That's what that was for. Okay, so those are the things I wanted to show you today on working with your design. So you have some options of going into your properties and choosing stitch patterns like we did down here. And don't be afraid for that, because I mean, even here, this is the wide satin in here. And to find wide satin, when you come in here, just put up here wide, and it'll take you to wide satin. I'm not sure what this one is. That looks like a satin, but it's maybe more of a weave. Let's see what that looks like as edit stitches. Oh, lots of little stitches in there. So that might be, see the texture in there. I kind of like that too. So you might find you like it that way. This one here is, when I go under stitches, this is 6,000 stitches. If I go back to what I had, let's select it again, it's only 1,600 stitches. So that's the thing to think about too, is when you change to some of those patterns, they become very, there's a lot in there. So you can test stitch parts of your design. And that's what I've been doing, test stitching parts of it. So it makes it a little bit easier to see what you're doing. All right, so one last thing before we go back to the camera. As you're going along, I don't know if you've noticed, I have my name here is 2 satin flower and stem, 2 petals. As I made changes, I saved it again by going to file at well, on mine it's way up here, you can't see it, but it's file, save as. And then I put it in the same spot. It's under my graphics class. There's the name. I might change it to number 3, so that I'll have a 2 and a 3 now in there, so I can go back between them, because I made some changes here, and unless I do a lot of undos, I won't know where I am. So as I work along, if I make a bunch of changes, I'll go up and I'll change it again, save it again with a different name. That way I can keep track, and later on I can go back and delete everything. I don't have to keep all of that in there. Now let me show you how pull compensation works. So let me go get my little sample here. I think it's in here. Here we go. So I created 2 circles, and I just put them on top of each other. I'm going to select auto up here so you can see that when this is laid on top, it does, the remove overlaps is on. So what might happen is when these 2 are stitched, maybe the blue is stitched first, and when the red starts to stitch, it doesn't quite go to the blue because the blue has it shrunk a bit. So you can work with either one of these, but I want to show you up close how this works. So I'm going to select the red, and I'm going to go to edit stitches, and I'm going to get in here really close so you can see those stitches. All right, so there we go. So see how just a little bit that the blue is underneath the red. All right, so if the blue was tight and maybe the fabric shrunk up, whatever, there might be a gap. Your red might not go all the way there. So you could add to your compensation. So here in your properties, under fill, because I have that one selected, compensation, I could change this. I'm going to do it really dramatic. So I'm going to do 0.3 and hit enter. And then I'm just going to hit selection. And then I'm going to go back to edit stitches. See, now it's really overlapped. so you can see how much that moves it. Now you might not want to go that far. That's quite a bit. So if you measured that, let me see here, where's my measure tool? Yeah, that's not even a quarter inch. It looks like it's a lot, but it's not that much. I could have done it with the blue part. So let's select the blue. Hang on a second here. Now my blue is selected, so let's go to stitches there. And actually, what I'm going to undo and go back with the red. So the red is back where it belongs. I'm going to do the blue. Now the blue is going to be underneath the red, but I can still do the compensation there. And let's see if I do that at 0.3 and then hit select and go back to edit stitches. And you can see now the blue is going to be underneath the red. Now that works in some of the spots, but look here over on this side. Let me go down, I'm trying to get to the right spot here. When you go down the side of this, you can see how close it is. So, here, that's how far the blue went. You might want to use the compensation on the red in this part. Let's just pretend, and we'll put it at 0.3. That's kind of dramatic. But then select and then stitches. There you go. So you can see how it covers. So sometimes you have to do it to both pieces to make it work. All right. So hopefully that'll help you when you're working. Now this works with other, other designs you're working on too, but it doesn't work on a ready-made embroidery design unless you convert it to curves. And that's a whole other topic that we'll have to talk at another time. I'm going to put the camera back on, and here we go. All right, so hopefully this is helping you learn a little bit more about working with graphics. I can't show you and tell you everything in like 3 or 4 videos at a time, but one of the things as you create more projects, whether they're working with a graphic or maybe you're using applique and stitches, all those times when you're using the software, you're learning more tools and more ways to manipulate things in the software. Because as I said, working with a graphic, it isn't always just one way to go. There's lots of different ways that you can go, lots of different directions. So have a patience with that when you're working with your graphics. And if you have questions, be sure to post them below. I'll be coming back later to answer all of those. Next week, we wrap it up. We're going to be talking about our background. What are we going to do about the background? Are we going to use a background? Are we not going to use a background? How's that all going to work? All right. So we'll see you all for now, everyone. Thank you for joining me in the studio. Bye-bye.